Welcome to Joffy Noodle Legs and the Horror House.
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to this new video, which isn't a top 10 but it is a ranking video. There's a new thing going around with some YouTubers. I think it was started off by Blue Roy Films, and it was a favourite movie of each genre. So I'm going to have a crack at it today. Now, I'm not going to do every single genre, guys, because that would keep me here probably all night. There's so many film genres. So I've picked probably about 12 or so genres to go through. The big ones, really. Sci-fi, horror, war, blah, blah, etc. The big ones. So I'm going to just go through that today. And please check this out and share this video about if you're interested, and maybe do it yourself. So let's get cracking. Let's start off with the big one. Of course, my genre, my film genre is horror, hence the name of the channel, The Horror House. It is my favourite go-to genre of film. So we're going to start with my favourite horror film, and it's The Witch. A New England folklore tale. This is a folk horror film based in New England, America, at the turn of a century, like not this century, like the 18th, I believe. It might be older than that. And it's about a family that gets shunned by their local village, and they leave the town and they start off on their own. They try to build up this farm in this sort of like farmland next to a woodlands where no one seems to live. And it's been very unsuccessful, because the land they built it on, within the woods of that land lives a witch, and she has cursed the land. So every crops they try to grow doesn't work. Anytime they try to catch food, it's a disaster. And ultimately they have a bit of shocking when their baby gets missed. They have like a couple of twins, they have a young lad, they have a teenage girl, and the father and the son, and a baby, and the baby goes missing. And then the family, the whole relationships tend to turmoil and start against each other and start blaming each other for witchcraft and all this sort of thing. And all these crazy things happen to this poor family. And it's a horrible tale, and it's a wonderful film. It's shot amazingly, and it's really creepy. It's really scary, very atmospheric. To me, it's the greatest horror film that's been made ever. Now, I love all horror films, pretty much genres. You know, I love the original Nosferatu and the remake. I love every single sort of horror film that's out there. Your slashers, everything. But that is my favourite horror film. I just love it. It's my go-to if I want to watch the greatest horror film ever made, The Witch. Next genre up is sci-fi, and we're going to cheat. And because my favourite sci-fi film is Alien. Yes, it's a sci-fi horror film, but it is still a sci-fi film. Starring Sigourney Weaver. She works among a small crew of this sort of spaceship, that they're in this deep sleep in space, and they get awakened by a distress signal, which they think is a distress signal, which turns out to be a warning. And they land on this planet, and a parasite from one of these creatures gets embodied into John Hurt's character, and then explodes out the John Hurt's character, and then the whole crew are terrorized as this creature sort of molts out and spawns itself into this incredible alien. And it's absolutely wonderful. It's really cool. It's not overly gory. There is a couple of gore scenes in there. Obviously the stomach buster is the most famous one, but it's more of the tension on this film that brings it. And it's all set in space where no one can hear you scream. And there's no other sci-fi film that's as good as this. Yes, 2001 Space Odyssey is incredible, and that nearly made this, but this is my favourite film of all time. I'm a horror fan, but a sci-fi film is my favourite film of all time. So I had to put it in the sci-fi section, and that's Alien. Next genre up is, let's have a little look, war films. Yes, I could have gone with something predictable, like Dunkirk by Christopher Nolan, or All Quiet on the Western Front, or The Longest Day. But I have still gone very predictable. I've gone with a classic called Bridge on the River Kwai, starring Alec Guinness. An incredible film, really, really cool. It also stars William Holden and Jack Hawkins, based upon a Japanese prisoner of war camp, where to keep the soldiers' morale up in the camp, Alec Guinness agrees with the Japanese soldiers to build this bridge. But he doesn't realise what he's actually building is something that they can transport goods and weapons across. But the army have found out about it, and they are sending people out there to blow up this bridge, to the dismay of Alec Guinness, who finally clicks what he's done nearer the end of the film. It's a really, really cool war film, a little bit different. You know, it's not like out and out sort of like war footage, or you know, it's a prisoner of war camp, and it's absolutely incredible, absolutely amazing film. I love that. Really cool. Bridge of the River Kwai. Next up, I'm going to do action film, and something a little bit different that you may not have heard of. This is a film called Savage 3. This is an Italian 1970s crime action film, and it's amazing. It's really violent and really sort of gory, but it follows like most Italian films of that era. It's a very exploitation sort of film. You may recognise the main, if you follow Italian films, you may recognise the main actor. He starred in Andy Warhol's Flesh of Frankenstein, and so he's from that film. I'm not sure if this was in the Video Nasty list. I don't think it was, but it's a very extreme film about these three guys that go around just committing violent acts around Italy. And finally, sort of like the police, sort of like, you get all police chases, car chases, shootouts, and lots of sort of like violent gore and stuff like that. This is a cut version. You can't get an uncut version in the UK. Now, the only thing that's cut out of it is a little bit of animal cruelty at the beginning of the film. In the 70s, the Italian films were riddled with animal cruelty. For some reason, they thought it was brilliant for the film, but there's a bit of animal cruelty at the beginning of the film featuring rats, but it's been cut out of the film, which I'm glad about. But everything else is intact, and that's a great action film. Savage 3, check it out if you can. That's an Arrow release, really cool. One of the genres they've been doing on these videos is romance. Now, I'm not a huge romance film fan, as you can probably imagine, but I do like the odd one. More down the rom-com sort of things. Like I like some of the classic. There's a few British ones that I love. Love Actually, I quite enjoyed. Notting Hill, you know, all these were really cool sort of films. But I've gone for one that's a little bit different. I haven't gone for an English one or an American. I went for a Scottish one, rom-com, and it's called Gregory's Girl, starring Gordon St Clair, directed by Bill Forsyth, and starring a very young, what her name's gone from me, from the band Altered Images, Claire Grogan. And this is about Gregory, who's at school, and this came out the same time I was at school, like the sort of 4th and 5th year. And him and his friends are not very successful with girls, and this new girl joins the school, and she just happens to be really good at football. And she joins the football team, and the football coach, the teacher, is played by oh god, what's his name? Unfortunately, don't put him here on the credits, but he starred in as Pete Jakey in Still Game, but he stars in this as the teacher, and he's so funny. Anyway, Gregory falls in love with this girl, and he fumbles around and tries to get a date, and it turns into like a romance, but not with the girl he expected. And it's really, really cool. It's very light, pleasant British film to watch, and I absolutely adore Gregory's Girl. It's absolutely amazing. You guys need to check it out if you've never seen it. It is such a good, fun film. Gregory's Girl, amazing. I think the Americans did a remake, like the beginning of the 2000s. Avoid it. Get the original 1980s one, Scottish Gregory's Girl. It's incredible, amazing film. Next up is I've added this one to. I think I've taken out one that they put in. I put in one of my own, and I've done the film noir film, and I've gone for Humphrey Bogart in The Maltese Falcon, which I could have put in the crime one, but I've got a different one for the crime one. And I still wanted to put this in there because it's an amazing crime film. It is made in the 1940s in black and white, and it's an amazing film. With Mary Astor and Humphrey Bogart. Really cool film. Won't go into the plot because I am going to be reviewing this on my channel soon, because I'm going to be doing a few videos over film noir, because it's one genre that I love, that I rarely speak about on my channel, because I always go to horror, and occasionally I'll jump into my Italian spaghetti westerns. But this is absolutely amazing film. It's so cool. Yes, it's of its time, but it's that sort of crime, gangstery sort of feel to the film, and it's absolutely wonderful. So keep your eyes peeled to that. So that's film noir. So we jump to westerns next. Again, it's a bit of a hard one, because I could have put in Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, which I love, with starring Chris Christopherson. It's probably one of my favourite westerns. Yes, I love the Man with No Name films, but they're not my favourites. I have a huge Italian spaghetti western collection, and I love loads of those. There's quite a few in there by Lucio Fulci that I love. But I'm going to go with an American western starring Clint Eastwood, and it's called Unforgiven. This is an amazing film with an amazing cast. It stars Clint Eastwood, Gene Hackman, Morgan Freeman and Richard Harris. What an incredible cast. And it's about an old gunslinger who's retired, played by Clint Eastwood. And in the local town that's run by the sheriff, Gene Hackman, one of the prostitutes from the local whorehouse gets raped, and they save up the money and they request for this gunslinger to come and revenge the girl that's been raped. He agrees, and along the way he picks up his friend Morgan Freeman, who's also a gunslinger, and they go into town to try and revenge this girl. And it's incredible. It's an amazing film, amazing soundtrack. I'd love to get the CD of this, but I can never find it. If ever I see it, it's always like stupid money. It's such a good film. It's quite violent. It's a little bit of a slow burn, you know, but it's incredible. The ending is amazing, which obviously I'm not going to tell you. And it's so cool. He lives out on a farm out in the west with his couple of kids. His wife has died, so he's bringing up the child on his own. He's sort of like failing at it as well, because he's got a few animals and he's not very good with them. But so he's looking at this as an opportunity for money to sort of like help him, support him and his kids. And it's such a good film. It is a winner of 4 Oscars. That's really cool, including Best Picture. So my favourite from the Western genre is Unforgiven. So we're getting there, guys. Next up, we're going to have thriller. So we're going to have one from The Master, Alfred Hitchcock. And I've got it in this box set here. And it's called Rear Window, starring James Stewart and Grace Kelly. It's a thriller, but a different sort of thriller. It's all set in one room and a view from a window. He plays like a photographer, James Stewart, for a magazine, and he's injured his leg, he's broken his leg, so he's laid up from work. And he's just spent there all day peeking out of his neighbours across the... he lives in this sort of like built up sort of housing flats, and he's watching everybody. And he sees a murder happen, or what he believes to be a murder. and then he convinces his friend that it's a murder, and his girlfriend Grace Kelly, and all these sort of things happen within the film. It's a real tense thriller for such a small environment. You rarely go out of this room. You see it all through the window, apart from when there's one part near the end when they go into the yard. They think they buried some of the woman and some of her remains in the yard and stuff like this. It's such a cool idea and an amazing film. So under thrillers, my favourite thriller is Rear Window, Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window with James Stewart. So that's that one. So I've got 1, 2, 3, I think 4 more genres to go through, guys. No, sorry, 5 more. I'm going to do animation next. This one's a bit of a different one. It's a Tim Burton animation, and it's called 9. Now, this is a strange little story about all set on a different sort of planet with these funny little creature men. That's all I can say about it. And it's it's about these machines are taking over their sort of world and mankind, and this little creature called 9 escapes this factory, and he sort of goes out. I suppose if you think of the video game Oddworld, I think you're probably getting a little bit close to what it's a little bit like. And it's a really cool little animation film, and the animation in it it's like nothing I've ever seen. These are your guys that are in it. He's the main character with a zip. So I think that game character has been obviously copied from him, the one with the zip. I can't remember his name now. On the PlayStation 5. There's a character.
Sackboy.
Sackboy. Yeah, it looks like they've copied that from this. This is a really fantastical sort of film, but it is Tim Burton. So if you look at Nightmare Before Christmas and that, it's all that sort of futuristic-y sort of animation, and it's really, really wonderful. But it is a bit more of an adult theme sort of animation. So it's not for the real young kiddies. You know, stick to your Disneys for them. But even those, you know, are not always a happy theme, are they? But yeah, 9 is my favourite animation. It's been out a good few years now. I think this was like late 90s, early 2000s. It's a really cool film. It says contains moderate animation threat. So 9 is my favourite animation. Next up is drama. And I've gone for Martin Scorsese's film Taxi Driver, starring Robert De Niro. This is the 4K release in the Steelbook. It's a fantastic film. I believe he's I don't know if he's a Vietnam soldier, but he's turned his hand to taxi driving in New York, and it's quite a downbeat, depressing sort of film, and he works the night shift, so he sees all the pimps, all the drug dealers, all the crimes, all the prostitutes, and all this sort of stuff going on. And he befriends one of the young prostitute girls there, played by Jodie Foster, and he feels sorry for her, and she's treated really bad by the pimp, which is played by, what's his name? A real famous actor, which I really like, but I'm not going to be able to read the writing on it. Jodie Foster. No, I can't remember his name. But he plays his pimp, and he treats him really bad. So he goes on a revenge mission. If you've seen the film Falling Down with Michael Douglas, this is like they must have been influenced by this. This is a 1970s film. He snaps. He just loses it. He shaves his head off into like a Mohican, and he arms himself and he hits the streets, sort of like knocking off sort of pimps and stuff like this. It's a really, really depressing and downbeat film, but it's so cool, so amazingly acted. It's got that brilliant sort of grimy 70s New York feel about it, with this sort of low beat jazz soundtrack playing in the background. Really cool film, really cool. Taxi Driver is my favourite drama. So what we got next? Crime film. This one again is a little bit different than probably your average taste that people would go for when they think of crime. I've gone for a British semi-horror film, if you like, starring Richard Attenborough and John Hurt, and it's called 10 Rillington Place. It tells the true story of John Christie, who just after, during the World War II and after World War, he killed some women and he buried them in his back garden and in parts of his house. He was tricking all these women that he was some sort of doctor, and he wasn't, and he just ended up killing them. We got a young family that move in, John Hurt and his wife, who's pregnant, and she wants to they can't afford to keep the baby at the moment, and he says he can do this abortion for them. Obviously he can't, but the baby dies, the woman dies, and John Hurt gets blamed for the murder, and he gets hanged by the court, and it was John Christie was the murderer. It's a misjustice of in this film, and it's based on a true story, and it's a really cool film. Amazing. I was going to go with one film that I absolutely adore for crime, and that was From Hell with Johnny Depp and Robbie Coltrane. Yeah, I was going to go with that, but I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go with something a little bit not so obvious, because I do love this film. Really cool. Great film. So we've got one more little genre to do. Just one little honourable genre which I haven't touched on. And that is world films, like world cinema. For some reason, I've kind of left that out, and I'm gonna go with it's a horror film. I think that's why I left it out. It's from Sweden, and it's called Let the Right One In, and it's a vampire film. I was gonna put that in for one of my world cinema, but then I thought everyone thinks he's just doing a horror video, Joff. But no, I won't put it in just for that reason alone. But for my honourable mention and shout out for the world cinema genre, Let the Right One In, Swedish horror film. So the last one is going to be superhero. My favourite superhero film is a Christopher Nolan film, and it's his version of Batman, and with Batman Begins. I'm going with the first one, not the Dark Knight or anything like that. I'm going with the first one because it came out and it was so full of atmosphere. It was so dark. We already had the Tim Burton Batmans, which were great. They were really cool, but they were more sort of family orientated, if you like, which it should be because it's a comic book. But this took it an extra step level more towards the adult side of things, like the other Marvel film, like The Punishers, which are added that sort of adult content. This sort of went that sort of way, not as violent or dark as The Punisher, but it sort of stood out to me, and it was amazing, and the soundtrack was incredible. And Christian Bale played Batman? Mm-hmm. He was absolutely fantastic in the film. And Gideon Murphy plays the Scarecrow. He was really cool. And I think because the villains weren't the obvious villain, they didn't jump out there with Joker or Penguin or the Riddler or anything like that. They jumped out with the Scarecrow. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. Because obviously this film was more based on you getting to know the character of Batman and why he was the way he is because of losing his parents to this killer and stuff like this in an alleyway, and being brought up by his servant, who's played by the British legend Michael Caine. It was just amazing, and of course it starred the incredible Gary Oldman. It just had everything going for it. It was just like a graphic novel. It just sort of like, when I watched it, it just sort of blew me away. It's just amazing. Then they brought out Dark Knight, which was really cool, but a lot more commercial, if you know what I mean by that. It was really well acted. You know, is it Heath Ledger? I think, can't remember his name. Played the Joker. He was fantastic in the role, but it got more public prestige than the first one. So I like the first one more because it was the story of Bruce Wayne, and you know, and he's a bit of an arse in it. You know, he's a bit of an arsehole in it. He treats women really bad and stuff like that. And but that's because he's become sort of withdrawn from people, and I quite like that. And that's what makes him the sort of anti superhero, if you like. And it was really cool, and it just played out really well, and I loved it. Really full of atmosphere, and it played out a little bit like a sort of superhero horror film, just because it was so dark and moody. It's really cool, and that is my favourite superhero film. So there we go. I've covered quite a few genres. So they are my favourite films in all those genres. Hope you've liked this video. It's been a little bit long, but it's been cool to go through it. What are yours? Let me know down below. I'd like to thank some of the channels, obviously Blue Roy Films and Sammy G's World of Cinema, and that, because I watched them and I saw what they'd done. I thought, yeah, that's a cracking idea for a video, because I could have done more, because there's loads of genres I've missed out. I should do one really with the horror subgenres, really going through the subgenres, witchcraft, folk horror, you know, giallo, and going through all the subgenres of horror, because that is my bag. So I'm sorry if some of these have been a little bit predictable, but it's just because I rarely delve out of the horror genre. But I have today, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Cheers, guys.